I think this section is too flat texture-wise. Hello everyone, my name is Chuck. You're watching episode 159 of Let's Plant. In the previous episode, I walked you through my backyard garden, gave you a complete tour of all the areas that I'm working on right here. And I also filled you in on some of my plans for the garden. Now some of you were interested in seeing what the front garden looks like. I might do a quick tour in the near future, so make sure to watch out for that. And when I say near future, I do really mean near future. It's actually at the end of this video, so make sure to watch all the way till the end. And apart from that, a lot of you have continuously been giving me some suggestions, some tips, some comments on what I could do, and I really appreciate them, so keep those coming. But anyway, if you haven't seen the previous episode, my general goal or my plan for the next year or so is to go vertical. So it has all started with this pergola right here. On the other sections, I might not go as far as create another pergola on the other sections, because that would be just weird, because it looks one of a kind and repeating it over and over will make it look overdone. So I might go with something else, a different structure, or just a different sort of arrangement. I'm still working on it, no definite plans, but I'll show you as soon as I have an idea of what I wanted to do. Everything is just a collection of vague ideas in my head right now, so give me some time and I'll flesh it out. Also, you might notice that I'm wearing my green long sleeves shirt again. It's mainly because it's getting quite cold now. I think it's about 12-15 degrees today, and yeah, quite windy and a bit humid, so yeah, it really sticks to your skin. But at least that means that we no longer get bushfires in Australia. We are now in the middle of autumn, and daylight savings will end pretty soon. A lot of things have been going around the world recently, and I'm sure you know about the COVID-19 pandemic. So right now here in Melbourne, we are being advised to stay home. Non-essential services have already been shut down, so not a lot of businesses are actually operating right now. We feel very sorry for those who are in the affected businesses that have to be shut down, because of course that means that you are financially hit, so I really hope you hang in there. Fortunately, we have a bit of financial aid being provided by the government, but this is not a political commentary channel, so I won't comment on that. But anyway, I've been staying home since last week. I've been working from home in my home office. And yes, I do know that I am lucky to be in an industry where we could work from home without issues. Another side effect of this quarantine is that I no longer have to commute to work. That saves me an hour or an hour and a half every day. And I'm placing that hour that I reclaimed into working on the garden. And if you've been following my Facebook page and my Facebook group, you would know that I've been working on my garden. I've been posting daily updates, just showing bits and pieces that I've been working on. But otherwise, if you haven't been up to date on Facebook, I could show you right here. So this is the section that I've been working on for the past few days. I've been cleaning up the stream, pulling out Echeveria glauca, and I've been separating them, cleaning them up to come up with this head cuttings that you see here. And I've been slowly planting them back in. As you can see, I've already finished from the top up to the mid section. We still have the part on the bowl itself. And a lot of these I've been chipping away off camera, just doing it whenever I have the free time, which is pretty much after work every day. So let's get right to it. And since it's quite overcast, the sun is out. Well, the sun is being covered by the clouds. I think I'll remove my cap. And yeah, my wife did this to me. She thought of mixing up my hairstyle by trimming way too high, so this is a bit higher than usual. And she said that since I'm not going out of the house anyway, nobody's going to see my hairstyle in case she makes mistakes. But yeah, hello YouTube. But yeah, I like the feel of the wind on my scalp. It's so refreshing, especially since the wind is cold. So I guess I'm going to carry on like this. And besides, without a cap, I think I'm a bit more aerodynamic, so I'll probably be able to move about 0.7% faster. Yeah, let's get planting. Alright, so I haven't processed the entire stack yet. As you can see, there's still lots of plants in this tub. But I think I now have enough cuttings to fill up the bowl. So maybe we can get started on planting. Now speaking of planting, I was working on the drop right under the waterfalls a few days ago. Let me show you that clip. Remember when I said that I wanted to work on this area? So we have the waterfalls, the drop, and off camera I planted in some of this Pachyveria bea. I chose them because of their shape. They have spiky leaves, or at least their shape is spiky, and I would like to imagine that they are the splash that you get when you have water falling off from a great height. But unfortunately, colors wise, I don't think it is contrasting enough against the glauca. I tried to pick something that's light blue, light green, because I wanted to continue the flow of the water from here. But unfortunately, the elegance is light blue and it doesn't contrast too much against the bea. So I think that it needs a bit of work. So this got me thinking, what else do you usually see in waterfalls? Well, one of the things that came to mind was we see lots of foam, bubbles, white. So what if we made it to appear that it was foamy, lots of turbulence, lots of violence in the water, crashing and waves going on. And for that we would need something lighter, and maybe we have to shift away from blue and green. And there's a few plants that I have in mind. Of course, I'm not going with the Mexican giant because I already have them here, and the plants themselves are too big. As you can see, they can get rather large. This is not even their maximum size, but if I place them here, they would appear out of scale, too big, and I don't think they would fit this area nicely. So I need to look around for white plants that are smaller than this, maybe similar shape. I could either keep the bea and just mix them up with some of those white plants, or I could replace them entirely. I guess it depends on what sort of plants we find. So let me go around the garden and see what I can find. So here's what I rounded up. I have 3 different options. The first one is the Graptopetalum mendozae. As you can see, it forms nice clumps. It has lots of heads. It is tiny. In terms of texture, I think they make very nice fillers because they have lots of leaves and they look so chubby, so bubbly. And I would like to think that in terms of our water arrangement, this might be representing some of the bubbles, when the water falls and crashes into the rocks below. I think this is something that we could use somewhere in there. Next option is this Pachyveria powder puff, and what I like about this is it is white. It is not too big. Well, it can get a bit of height if you give it a lot of time, and I think something like this high takes about 2 or so years. I'm not sure how they spread out in the open, but I'm pretty sure that they form low clumps, something like this. So I think I could work with some of these in the ground to contrast against the bea, just sprinkle them somewhere in between, just to reinforce the splashing around of water. My third option is actually this little plant here and here. They are the same plant. This is actually a Graptoveria Margaret Repin, I think. I might be wrong, but it's definitely a Graptoveria. And personally, I think it looks somewhere in between the two of these because they form tight and low clumps. It has lots of leaves. The rosette is very dense. It is slightly pointy. If you look closely, it is less pointy compared to the powder puff and much more pointy compared to the mendozae. So yeah, I think it's somewhere in between. Size-wise, again, it is also somewhere in between. These are not even fully mature, so you can expect them to grow bigger. This is about as big as they can get. So if I'm after doing some sort of blending, then having all 3 in my palette would work really well. So we've got a tiny bit of space to work around in. Unfortunately, I have already filled up most of it with the bea, so I think I might have to thin it out a bit and shift all of them around such that there's gaps in between. That way I would have enough space to insert cuttings in. So I guess we should better go do that. Having thinned out the clump, I think I can start working on putting in those plants, and I'll do that in the form of a time lapse. So enjoy. So that takes care of this bit right here. I think I'm happy with how it turned out. There's a nice mix of plants and texture and colors. And looking at it, it seems like the bit of brown and purple provided by the Mendoza makes it look like this area is quite muddy than usual, because of course there's turbulence, so I guess sand, silt, and some of the soil is being picked up and spread around during the drop. So that bit of turbulence is causing some sort of shift, or just mixing up some of the colors. Yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out, and let's move on to the next task. Now back to the present. But before we plant, we have to look at the current bowl and see if we are happy with how it looks like. I think I would like to do the same stream again, but this time I'm going to reinforce this side with other plants that could help, break the transition. And I think this is rather flat as well. I might end up adding some of the violet queens just to, create a border around here, just to make it more defined. But otherwise, I think this side is looking all right as well. So the stream will continue on here. You reserve a bit of space for the violet queen, because at times the Pseudo Mexicanum gets a bit thin, especially now that we're shifting seasons. But I think over the next few months this will start growing again. I see lots of buds coming out of the stems, so in time this will fill up, but until then I would need to create a border here, because I do not exactly like how they are doing as a border by themselves. I mean, yeah, they work, but they do not create a defined line. So with the Echeveria Violet Queen running a line around here, I think it would maintain the shape really well. So because of that, I think I might pull out some of the violet queens from here, thin it out a bit, and use them to line here. I might even just harvest some violet queens from the rest of my clumps. So yeah, let's go do that. Now the way I would do this is that I would fill up the area with fresh soil. That would just refresh the nutrients that's already included here. Then I would prepare my cuttings, which I've already done with the Gloca. I only have to harvest some of the other plants that I wanted to use here. I decided not to touch the Gloca that are further out near the waterfalls, because they are deeply entwined with some of the trailing plants, and I do not wish to bother the trailing plants right now. So instead, what I'll do is just to clean up the dead leaves to the best of my ability. So we have to do a bit of cleanup on the other plants here, then plant in the violet queen and maybe even some bronze. I also thought I could use some of my Echeveria melaco, because I think with their height they provide some points of interest. So I guess we could imagine that these are tiny trees on the riverbank. I also modified the drop by placing some Pachyveria bea and a bunch of random plants just to simulate the splashing of water, the waves, the crash, the foam. But I felt that I placed one too many Pachyveria bea out in the front, and I'm thinking of removing this one and replacing it with something else that would fit. So I replace it with some of the lighter plants. I think I'm more or less done working on the stream and the sea of blue. So I think I'll leave that way for now and move on to something else. And now we're on to the Philippines. Now, in previous episodes, I mentioned that I wanted to fill up the ground with some ground cover. And my top choice, I think, was the Phedemus spurious, or the dragon's blood. And as you know, it is quite dark maroon, reddish brown in color. Something more or less, well, darker than this. And the problem that I see now is that a lot of my plants that I have here are frillies, and they tend to turn red, orange, and all of those warm colors, especially during winter. And I think having some of the dark ground cover would not contrast much. So maybe some lime colored plants would do. So I'm thinking that I could use some of the Cerriscapades hamelii. These are the green plants that you see here. And they grow quite fast. They cover the area really well if you give them the space. And I'm thinking I could grab a bunch of cuttings from here and plant them all over the Philippines. Now if you look at the difference in colors between this Echeveria bittersweet and the Cerriscapades hamelii, they contrast greatly. Green against the browns or dark reds. And if you look at the color wheel, these two colors are on the opposite sides of each other, which means that they are complementary colors. But before we get to that, there's something else that's been really bothering me, and the more that I think about it now that I'm aware, I can't really get it out of my head. And as for what that is, I think this section is too flat texture-wise. So there's only elegance right here, and it's starting to look quite boring, or at least this whole thing looks a bit abrupt. So we have a bit of texture here, but then things just get flat here. So I think I would like to mix it up a bit. I made a mistake. I forgot to record the first part of this time lapse, so don't be surprised when you see a huge gap. I basically pulled out a bunch of plants and filled it up with a bit of soil, and we're going to resume from here. So yeah, I just spent the last half hour planting in a bunch of cuttings, and if in case you haven't figured it out yet, this is a coral reef, hence the colors. Look how vibrant the colors are. There's a nice mix of warm and cool colors, which makes it, really stand out. It's not as lifeless as the flat blue and green that we had before. So yeah, I'm really liking what happened here. I might do this on the other parts, but maybe not for now. I'm just going to start here and revisit the rest of the sea of blue at some other time. Unfortunately, we have run out of time because it's starting to get dark again. So I'm going to work on this Philippine section maybe in the next episode. But for now, I'm going to leave you with a tour of the front garden. So if you like what you see, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next episode. Here's the front garden. Bye! This is just a quick tour. I'll do a more detailed one in a separate video.